This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know. Some rockstar dads who started a show. So here's the next episode.
Hey, welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show right here on Adobe Radio. Every Monday, we've got new episodes at 2 p.m. Eastern. And you know what? On Wednesday, you just open your phone, open your computer, and we're going to have podcasts wherever you're looking for them.
Yeah.
I'm Gary. I've got Jaret here with me, my good friend, and we're doing things a little bit different today.
We are. We're changing up. That was weird, but it was fucking really good, dude.
Like, yeah, you're happy with that?
You got a knack for this. You know what's funny is everybody always tells me, "Oh man, Gary's voice is so good. His voice is he's so good. He'd be so good on radio."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, I'm right here.
You're right here. Are they telling you that I've got a face for radio?
Oh, mate, I don't think that's the case at all. You're a handsome devil, you.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, you know what? Last week we had Kelly on for our Mother's Day special, and coming off this weekend, we just finished up Mother's Day. How was y'all's Mother's Day?
Mother's Day was good. Casey and I went to New Orleans last week, and for her sister Paige's graduation from college, and so we went with her dad and stepmom, and we had a great time. We rode all the rides. We did the damn thing, Gary. We New Orleans it up.
I forgot that you had told me you were going there,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, like on Wednesday night or so, I started getting texts from you at like 2:30 in the morning about all these fucking drinks that you're drinking, and I'm like, what is going on?
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then Edo chimed in, and he's like, you're in New Orleans, and I thought maybe you'd gotten yourself in trouble by going to his town and not telling him.
No, I told him, and we ended up getting together on Friday, and I had told him because I was like, man, I'm coming to New Orleans. This is a courtesy.
What is beeping?
Letting you know. I don't know.
Do you have that?
Hold on. No, I mean, I can hear it, but it's not me.
Okay.
What is that?
I have no idea. Weird. Okay.
Yeah. But I told him, I said, hey, this is a courtesy to tell you I'm in your town and I might be able to hang out, but I can't Wednesday or Thursday. It's going to be Friday. And, but so, yeah, because again, we were doing the graduation festivity. We went to dinner, and then the event was on Thursday, but we got to hang out, and it was a fun time. And then Mother's Day, we just chilled, man. We were supposed to have a pool day, but it was raining and storming. And so we just, we all hung out. How about you guys?
Well, Nikki was supposed to work on Mother's Day weekend. So we had celebrated the previous weekend and kind of did the pool day thing, you know, had a pool day and drink margaritas and ordered some food to my mom's house and just kind of chilled. But she ended up getting Saturday off. And so we kind of did that again. And then she did have to work on Sunday, but had a different schedule as usual, where they floated her to a different wing where it wasn't her normal thing. So she got out kind of early, and then we ended up going to a dinner. So we actually got more of a Mother's Day weekend than we planned, and we kind of did a twofer with 2 weekends in a row.
Oh yeah, that's the way to do it. I Mother's Day's pretty low key around here. You know, we have our little group over, and we have some food, and you know, we sit around and have some drinks. So
yeah,
we did it in our living room and our table, but except instead of the pool. And
yeah.
But it was funny. I went to go and pick up. I had to get out in the morning. Our dog, she's a lot, and I won't make this too long because I know we actually have a plan for today. But she gets sick, and she got sick in her crate, and she actually broke out of her crate, like basically tore the front off of it, like the door. And
that's not normal.
It's my fault. I'd left the bottom latch undone, so she had some play in it or whatever. Anyway, I had to go get a new crate, and on the way, I Kroger and got gas because we get discounted gas at Kroger or Racetrack. And I I was sitting there and just watching. The parking lot was full, like it was the Super Bowl, like full as shit. And like every dude was walking out of there with flowers. And so,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I called Casey and I'm just like, hey, I was supposed to go in there and grab something. And I go, I'm not gonna go in there. Like it's a zoo. And she goes, oh, you know why? It's because all of the dudes waited until today when because for Father's Day, we've already all got your presents.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
like,
they're always on top of shit. And you know what? We like I said, we had already kind of done our Mother's Day, but whenever actual Mother's Day hit, Anik was at work and Mia woke up and I was like, hey Mia, let's just go to the store and we'll get some flowers for mom for when she comes home or whatever. And so Mia went to the store and helped me, but I was one of those dads walking out with flowers on Mother's Day.
right. Well, you know what? At least at least you did it. And to all you moms, I hope you guys enjoyed the mom episode with Kelly last week. It was a great first thing, and I think maybe we'll figure out some other cool ways to incorporate some rock star moms.
So I just told a story about Mia. I've got another little funny story about Mia that will lead us into this episode. But last night, kids always say the craziest thing, right?
Yeah.
Mia came in. She's like, Dad, we need to talk about the elephant in the room.
Oh, no.
Where did you learn this? You're 6. Like what? We don't use that phrase a lot, like where did she pick this up? But her elephant in the room is, Dad, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. When are we gonna go see If? So it's a question. She really wants to go see this movie, If, right?
I love it so much.
But we've got an elephant in the room today, and that's hey, we've got a little bit different episode. I started things off, and today you've been generous enough to agree to talk a little bit about your mental health journey. It's Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for being open to talk about this stuff.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people that listen to the show know that you've had some issues and you're on this journey of mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But they may not have heard the story.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd dive in a little bit. Are you cool with that?
Yeah, man, for sure. It's one of those things where I still look back on it. It's just kind of a blur, but I've always been happy. I was always the happy kid and I was always a happy adult. And, I guess I have become more happy over the course of my adulthood. I'm way less. I was never really high strung, but I'm way even less high strung than I was if I ever was. And, to me, depression always meant sad.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really didn't quite understand what anxiety was. And what I like about my experience in that is because now that I'm an advocate, I can understand when people are just like, oh, you just got to rub some dirt on it and get out there or whatever. Because it's like the way that I explain it is like, if you've never had the flu, I can kind of try and describe it to you what it's like, but until you've had it, you just don't understand. Like I can't tell you I could try and describe what a broken arm feels like, but until you break your arm, you just don't understand. You hear people describe getting shot. It's like I don't know, but I don't really have a grasp on what it feels like to get shot. And yeah, I think depression and anxiety are comparable to all that. So anyway, I didn't have my first experiences with these things until late in life. As being my friend, I was in my 40s and essentially my life sort of started to crumble quite a bit all at the same time. We were having some stuff in the band going along with, there were guys in the band who were having other personal things going on in their life. And, for example, cause I've said it before, Eric was going through his divorce, you were having kids, and he had gotten his divorce. Well, then, my ex-wife and I went into couples counseling and that ended up turning into a divorce, which turned into a 2-year custody thing to try and, both of us basically just wanted our kids, and then from there turned into me selling my house and having to move into an apartment, and from moving to an apartment to another house, and getting into a new relationship and adopting my youngest son. And, where I found myself was just basically a lot of days just kind of in the fetal position in my bed. And I could not understand it. I just thought I was getting lazy. I could get the kids to school on my weeks. I could make sure that my dogs were fed and taken care of. I made sure that there were groceries in the house. All my responsibilities got done. But as far as like creativity or trying to do my job, it was just, I really just didn't have any interest in it, or nor did I really have the ability to do it.
Before all this happened, right? I know that you had some bouts with anxiety.
Yeah.
Like we've been on tour and I've seen you have some bouts with anxiety.
Yeah.
But before that, I mean, I know in high school, you're a go-getter, popular kid, class clown, kind of, everyone, a friend with people in different cliques. Right.
Yeah.
And then college, you're running a business, and in college, things are going normal. Like, you're doing a lot of stuff. In any of that time, just no indication of any kind of bad days, or just no earlier anxieties than once we were on tour?
No. The first time I felt a panic attack was in Bristol. It was the time
I remember that day.
Yeah. My brother came on tour with us. We went across the street to that place that we always go get English breakfast. Hatchet Inn. Is that where it is? And we had to park down the street. It was under construction. They had knocked down that building next to it, and we had to park a ways away. And when I woke up, there was no electricity, so no air movement in the van. And so I couldn't really breathe, and I was really hot. And I moseyed on down to meet you guys there, and y'all had already gotten a table, and you sat down in like this like sunroom area, and it's where they told you to sit, but it was different again than what it usually is. And again, there was just no air movement, and there was no heat in there. And for whatever the circumstances are, I had my very first panic attack, and I literally thought I was dying. Like I was fairly sure that what I was feeling was a panic attack, but I had never had one before. And I will say, like, it was, the indications in my head are going, man, you're having a heart attack, dude. Like this is it. It's the big one,
Yeah.
And I had to get out of there. And so those were few and far between from that point, which was probably like 2007 or so, 2006 or 7. And until it really kicked the door down and became a factor in my life, 6 or 7 years later.
At that point, when it is kicking your door down, obviously, you just kind of gotten into a lot of different things going on, right?
Right.
Divorce, and there's some
Yeah.
stuff going on in the band, and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
I know from what you're just saying, your panic attacks, like there's kind of underlying things going on that lead up to it. I've dealt with some anxiety as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that comes from situational stuff. For the start of that depression, whenever it actually kicked in as depression,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel that it was so much stuff happening at once? Had it been years of underlying things? Did it just come out of nowhere? Can you look back now and kind of diagnose that?
Yeah. So So basically I had a great doctor at the time, medical doctor. And this is why I always tell everybody, like, dude, everybody always thinks I can't afford a psychiatrist and I can't afford a therapist. Well, first of all, your therapist can't prescribe you meds anyway. And we all go into this not wanting meds. That's the big deal for me. I didn't want meds because I've been on, I've always been really scared of like actual narcotics. And obviously I have dabbled now in in marijuana and gummies and things over the course of, the last 14, 15 years, but it's still not something I do. And that's the only thing I've ever done. I've always been really terrified of those things. So I never really wanted to be on meds. And then the other factor in that is that I have ulcerative colitis. So I've been taking meds for that every day since I was 19. And so you don't want another thing that you have to rely on.
When you're saying you don't want another thing to rely on, is that for hey, I just don't want to be putting this shit in my body? Or is there a worry of like, hey, is one going to interact with the other and cause different effects?
Really, it was just an ego thing. It was like, I don't want to need something. Like, I don't want to have something to get me through the day. I'm strong enough to be able to do this on my own. And so I went to my doctor, Dr. Santiago, who retired young to go and work with his tribe in Oklahoma. And I'm very happy for him, but damn it, I miss him, but I just, it took me a long time to mention it. And then finally I was just like, I need some help, man. I don't know. I mean, I can't function. And so I started speaking to him about it. And essentially he basically put it all out there for me. He listed it back to me because he used to listen, and he listed all those things that I just listened to you, and he listed to you. And he goes, any one of those things could put someone in the state of starting to experience what it is you're experiencing. And you just had it all at one time. It's like some people get anxiety for the first time when they move to a new city. Some people get it when they get a divorce or a relationship breaks up, or they get into a new relationship, or they have a child that, he starts to go down things. It's just like all these things, and of course everybody who is inside, if you pay attention to what Bowling for Soup is doing, you will know that, I was on the cusp of breaking up our band to try and save my family. I just was grasping at straws. I didn't know what to do. And our band was everything to me, but what do? You pick your kids, right? I mean, sorry. But anyway, that was a fucking hard time. And so anyway, we started down the process of trying to figure out meds. And at the same time, Casey, who has been so amazing through this entire journey, and also who, is on her own. She has her own stuff to deal with, and we've had to learn to deal with each other's stuff, which is a whole different thing that if we have time, we can talk about that. But just because you have anxiety doesn't really mean that you know how to deal with somebody else's. You're still going like, hey, why are you anxious? Why can't I fix this? This is crazy. This is a great day. And they're like, hey, my skin is fucking crawling off my body.
Yeah, whenever you're in the midst of an anxiety attack, I mean, the last thing you want is anyone, right?
Yeah.
You just want space and leave it. Don't look at me. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine. Right.
Yeah.
Which is the weirdest thing. Cause anything else, I mean, if you're working in the shop and shot yourself in the hand with a nail gun or, cut your finger off, you'd be like, hey guys, who's going to help me? Let's go to the, like anything. You'd be like, hey, I need some help. And the weirdest thing about anxiety is you're just like, get away.
Yeah. Especially if somebody's really coming in at you, I mean, if we've really learned to, you just ask like, hey, do you want me to sit here with you, or would you rather me go in the other room? And there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. But so Dr. Santiago and I started down the path of, anyway, what I was going to say was she pretty much gave me an ultimatum, which ended up being fucking awesome. But basically, if I didn't go to therapy, she didn't know, if she was going to be able to deal with me. And, and I, looking back, I totally get it. I was self-destructing, man. I was out every night, and I wasn't being a good boy. And it was a crazy time. And, but Dr. Santiago and I started down the path of medication. And this is where, it gets complicated for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people finally get I just talked to a common friend of ours about this weekend. And, I think a lot of people think okay, I'll go and I'll get this pill and it'll be fine. Well, when that pill doesn't work, they get frustrated and they're like, well, you know what? It's just meds aren't for me. And again, Santiago was so great because he was like, look, there's no magic pill. If we had a magic pill, we would all just take it and then nobody would have it. Like there's no magic pill for anything in the world, right? I mean, you even whatever it is, I mean, we've cured polio, but people have polio, right? I mean, it's like, there's no magic pill. That might have not have been a good analogy, but still to me, it fucking helped. But, so the thing is that they didn't work for me at first. And so it took a solid, 18 months to 2 years to finally get the right combination of medications to where I could exist and not just completely be worried that at any point I was going to have a panic attack or just need to go lay down and not talk to people for 2 days. And, but we did it, and we've made adjustments along the way, and I've made adjustments with my other doctor since then. And now I have a psychiatrist who he handles all of those medications. And, but I've been kind of status quo for a long time. But, again, I tried Wellbutrin, Prozac, all that stuff, and they all would help at first, but then sort of make me feel a certain way. And then the big thing is that what was great about him was he wanted to find the right combination to keep me from being depressed, to keep me from having anxiety attacks, to keep me from just feeling to where I did, to get me to where I'm motivated to go do things. But also he wanted to make sure that I was still creative. And so one of the stories that I've told, actually, I told this recently on another show, but I still do this. So I will just start crying for no reason sometimes. And I honestly, I can't put my finger on it. Nothing happens. I mean, I'm literally, the example I give is the example I gave him. I was walking from my workbench in my garage. I had just put up a hammer and a screwdriver that I had used for something else. And I'm walking and I'm halfway through the garage and I just break out in tears and start crying. Right. And I'm like, holy shit, what was that? But a minute later, I'm fine. And like, there's this release, there's just this release of tension that happens. And so I go in there to him and I'm like, man, I just start crying for no reason. It's freaking weird. And he goes, well, how's your creativity? And I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of killing it. I mean, by then we were already writing a record again and we're, Bowling for Soup's back, firing all cylinders. And I said, it's good. And he goes, well, we could probably get rid of the crying, but I can't say that we wouldn't be hurting some of that creativity too, because, anything slows your brain down in one area, it's going to slow it down in the other. It's all chemical, right? So, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the journey as far as the first part of all this to getting onto the meds and that is that, and it's just such an important thing.
Let's back up for a second. You hit on a lot of things that I do want to talk about, but if it's okay, let's go back a little bit. You mentioned earlier, like, you kind of just found yourself curled up in bed. Is that the first symptom? I mean, hey, you're normal everyday Jaret, and then all the stuff's going on in your life. Is the first symptom that you remember, like, just no motivation, laying around at that point? Do you know, hey, I've got this depression, or are you just like, I'm in a funk? What's the first sign, and where does it go from that first sign to you realizing, oh shit, this is bigger than just a lazy day?
So depression was way later when they actually diagnosed me. That's after I found the therapist and all of that stuff. Seeing the therapist for quite a bit of time. Before that was like where they said that actual thing. So I'm really was just kind of being treated for anxiety at first. And what I'd felt first was the only way that I can explain it to someone is when you're a kid, and your parents are still paying for your car and your insurance, and you pass a cop going 80 miles an hour in a 35. That feeling, but just imagine that, but it doesn't go away. It's not like a whoosh. It's just a and that's how you feel. So that's to me what anxiety feels like. Honestly, it's Chester says it in a Linkin Park song, crawling in my skin. Like sometimes I can literally feel like I need to be out of this. Is if I'm having anxiety. I need to be out of here. I can't be in my body right now. I need out. And that was the first thing that kind of started for me.
I'm sorry. I've dealt with some anxiety too. You've been around for some of that, and I feel like that. I'm just going to elaborate for the listener. Like some of my symptoms, it's like it's not the grass is always greener on the other side, but it's definitely no matter what I'm doing is not helping. Right? There's been a day off where we did an Airbnb, and I was like, man, I'm not feeling like the world's kind of getting smaller, and I'm feeling this, and so like I'm going to go to the room by myself and lay in a bed. And like, then I'm sitting there going, yeah, but now everyone's worried about me sitting in the bed by myself. So I'm going to go back out here and try to power through and hang out with everyone. And you go power through and you're like, this is worse. I got to go back. Like you just, no matter what you're doing is wrong. And that's how it's been for me.
Yeah. And your body too, like being on the road is weird because, we didn't really tour for a little while during that time. Of really just kind of we got back into it before I started getting medicated. I mean, the timeline's kind of fucked because it's pretty loose because there was so much going on in my life. It all is a little bit mixed up, but we had definitely, we were back to, I was separated and we were back to like, okay, fuck it. We're going to just be a band again. And, we're doing it. And by the way, so we never broke up. The thing about Bowling for Soup is that I had just said, look, I've got to get off the road. Let's start, this was the early days of like, where streaming seemed to be something that we might be able to do every once in a while and still kind of keep it going. And we were going to make music and all this stuff. But but really without the road, and especially at that time, the band really wouldn't have had the longevity we would, again, it's, and everybody knows that we did the farewell tour in the UK and I had to take a break. We all needed a break, man. I mean, we fucking needed a break, and it was, but I sort of used all of that as this thing of like, hey, I can get the band to take this break and maybe I can fix my life. And that was stupid and wrong. And I've gone through a lot of therapy and talked to you guys about it and been very open with y'all about, my resentment towards myself about all that. But yeah, so the thing about your body on tour is it's like how we say right towards the end of a tour, your body knows, and it starts to do this thing where you're just tired and sore and all these things that you didn't feel before. Anxiety can be that way for me. And I think for you too, because I've watched it happen like on a day off where like your body, you relax to the point of like you're not having to fight through the day. And so you chill a little bit and you almost sort of leave this door open for it to come in. And then, yeah, you're like, man, I need to be doing my laundry. If I don't do my laundry, then I'm not going to be, but God damn it, I don't feel like doing my laundry right now. And then, or you go in there and there's 7 people in front of you to do your laundry and you're like, shit, and then like you said, you go in there and you're in the bed, but then you're thinking, fuck, now somebody's going to need the shower. And like, I'm in here, but I'm really comfortable, but at the same time, I can't breathe and I can't go outside because it's 114 degrees outside. I mean, it's just
nothing's right.
That's it.
So what's the difference between anxiety and depression? Where does anxiety end and depression start?
Well, I will answer that for you, Gary, right after these words. Y'all listen to this. We'll be right back with more Rockstar Dad Show.
All right, welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show. We are having a special edition today where we are talking about Mental Health Awareness Month, and Jaret's sharing his story. And, right before the break, I asked him what the difference is between depression and anxiety. Where does one start and the other stop?
I mean, for me, you can feel anxiety and you can just say, I'm feeling anxious. Like I'm super anxious right now. Like I need to take a minute. I need to do this or whatever. Like depression is more of a thing to where I'll just tell you, Casey asked me the other day, like, hey, like, have you not been feeling all that great? And I'm like, I'm fine. Why? And she's like, I don't know. I just feel like there's been about 10 days of you just kind of not all there and blah, blah, blah. And I've learned that I can't just do the guy thing and be like, I'm okay, because then it starts her mind going, well, shit, I guess it's me. What did I do wrong? You know, like this, you know, that comes from a lot of fucking therapy, by the way. I mean, I got a fucking toolkit now, but I was like, yeah, you're right. And probably should have said something. I just haven't felt right. There's just a lot going on right now. You know, it's busy. I got, you know, nothing bad, everybody, but you know, I've got stuff going on with my health that I'm just trying to get everything in line and stuff. And, you know, just a bunch of stuff. And anyway, so a lot of times, you know, I don't even really realize what's happening. And then until maybe it'll take me a couple of days. And then I'm like, man, I really don't want to get out of bed today. And it's not just because I'm being fucking lazy or hungover or something. It's that, like, no, I mean, I really, really don't want to get out of bed today. And I'm not always anxious when I'm depressed, by the way. So, and I'm not always depressed when I'm anxious. So that's the other thing. There's all these different combos of all of it. And, you know, but I'm fairly high functioning, you know, for the last, you know, 8 years or so that, like, I can pretty much combat it anytime. And I have a medication that I can take, like, as an emergency. I'll just fucking tell you, I have Xanax, but I get 6 every 6 months and I don't even always feel it. Like, I hardly ever take them, because the only time I would really ever need them was if I'm having like crazy anxiety. And it does help.
Do you have any experience like this? I've, like I said, recently been having some anxiety issues as well the past few years, and I've had that prescription of Xanax too. And there's been a couple of times where I have to take it, and it really, really helps. Mm-hmm. But I've also found that for me, just having it, relinquishes a ton of anxiety. Just knowing, like, okay, if it starts creeping in, it's there.
Yeah, isn't that the thing that we just talked about the other day, though? About, like, let's make it life, right? When you tell your employees they can control their work day, and they can tell you, you know, they can have as many vacation days as they want. It's at their discretion. They just have to get their job done. The comfort of knowing that that's there, that they can use it anytime, almost makes them not want to use it. And there's a sense of security with that, you know. There's just, and you're 100% right. Like, I have it with me, on the road. I actually just told my shrink this the other day, and I was just like, man, I took one for a really long flight and I didn't really need it, but I'm just being honest with you. And he goes, well, were you drinking? I was like, I wasn't drinking after I took it. Yeah, well, let's not mix the two things together or whatever. Like, I was just like, yeah, I know, but at least I'm being honest about it, you know. And which he didn't think any of that was funny.
Well, doctors are, man, it's hard to find a funny doctor. You know what? I feel like we've hit on a lot of the establishing, you know, early days and the beginning of all this, and you've kind of hinted at some of the recovery stuff. Mm-hmm. Let's kind of bridge the gap going from, hey, here I am, I'm starting in this depths, you know, I'm in the bad spot. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna get some help. Let's bridge that gap with this question of, at that point when you know, hey, I've got something going on and I need to get some help. I need to reach out. I need to do something. Mm-hmm. Is there a stigma? Is there a pressure? Is there a confusion on your part going, hey, I'm Jaret. I'm like the happy guy. I'm the funny guy. How am I going to tell people this? How am I going to ask for help? Is anyone going to believe this? Like, what's going on with that?
100%. And that is I mean, honestly, even after I started going through this, I wasn't sharing this with anybody. You know, it took me a while to tell you guys, you know, it took me a while to, go ahead.
I'll attest to that. And since then I've felt bad because, like you said, when this was going on, when it started, you were going through a divorce. I had a young kid at home. I saw you going out and fucking around and doing stuff and getting drunk, and you were kind of just like single guy going out. From my perspective, we weren't checking in every day. We were home from the road. We were doing different lives at that point.
100%.
And whenever you did come out and tell us, it not trying to make it about me at all, but like it kind of hit me like with a ton of bricks. I was like, oh shit, he's been going through this, and he's been to the outside making it look like everything's fine, and I haven't checked in, and I haven't asked how things were going.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that it's hard because I know what face I can put on, and I think that leads back to what you asked me, is that like I was super worried that people wouldn't take me seriously. I was worried that, there's no possible way. Like, you're the funny guy. Like, again, like you said, you're fucking Jaret Reddick. Like, you're funny. Like, you can't be. And, it's obviously now we're all learning, right? Since the stigma, the last 10 years has sort of been lifting. Still not lifted, but lifting. We have these quotes from Robin Williams before he died, and all of the, again, there's in the music, it's just a fucking epidemic. Chris Cornell and Chester, and it's nuts, man. And and don't forget, like, all of that was going on at the same time too. So I was scared, actually, for the first time in my life. So I never really I only had 1 or 2 bouts with like actual suicidal thoughts, but it really scared me when those guys started. When that went down, I was like, is that me? Like, is that what's going to happen to me? Like, it was fucking scary.
I wonder if when you're in that headspace of, hey, things are not going good for me, and starting to realize, hey, maybe I should ask for help. I wonder if you, or I'm sure other people do, think that they're putting warning signs out there. They think that they're asking for help, and people aren't just picking it up, because we all are so wrapped up in what we're going on. And I'm going to use an example here, but we've done it twice with Anik, with both of our kids whenever they were being born. It's like there's that time period where it's like, okay, we're not ready to tell everyone that we're pregnant, but whenever you go out, you're so aware of like, oh my God, she's not drinking alcohol. Everyone's going to know.
Yeah.
And no one fucking notices. So I wonder if there's that, like, you're wrapped up in your own shit from the mental health side of things, and you think you're giving warning signs, and you think you're asking for help, and people maybe just not picking it up.
The problem with me also is that I'm really smart. And I completely,
I feel like you're selling yourself short compared to normal. Normally, you're like, I'm a freaking genius.
I am a fucking genius. No, but I am really smart. And what I did was I separated into almost like 2 existences. So like when I was with you guys, I was just me, and we're doing our stuff, and like, let's go do our job and have some fun or whatever. It was when I was really with my other group of friends, that I was hanging around with, that I would just get into self-destruct mode. And I had, there was another thing that was going on with me. I had another sort of friendship go by the wayside that affected a few of my other friendships. And so I really wasn't talking to Linus a lot at this time. I wasn't talking to you guys at this time. I mean, that's my fucking foundation right there. And then, so I had Casey, and I was being fairly honest with her, but even then I really wasn't, I was just taking it all on myself, and until I wasn't. And then once I got the depression diagnosis, like once my therapist was like, dude, you have depression.
Leading into this conversation, you said that Casey was kind of forcing you into, hey, you need some help, or we're not going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
I'm sure at that point you're a smart guy. You're a freaking genius.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you're sitting here going, hey, I need to reach out. I need to get some help, whatever. Even with those 2 things, yourself telling you and her telling you, is it hard at that point to go, hey, I'm going to take this first step and try to figure this out, try to find some help?
Yeah. For it was easy for me with the doctor because he was so great. Finding a therapist sucks, and nobody wants to do it. And I just went through it again, finding a new therapist, because I I needed to go back, and now I'm back, and I fucking love the guy. But like, I never want to restart. But plus, none of them really are taking insurance these days, and there's a lot of them that really they're faith based, and that might be great for some people, but that's just not really what I need. Right now in my life. And so yeah, it was difficult. And I would almost, I didn't, but I almost like did that thing that, college kids do where they just don't go to class. Like I would think about it on the way there, like, I'm just not going to go. Like, how's she going to know? But I went and I made myself go, and I'm very, very glad I did. I definitely learned a lot about myself really, really fast. There was, again, I keep adding on to it, but that I was still going through, like, trying to figure out the whole biological father thing at that point. And there was just a shitload going on in this little brain of mine. And but yeah, I my big thing is that once I started telling people, they were just like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, dude, I'm here for you if you need me. And, nobody was just like, yeah, right. I mean, especially you guys and the important people in my life anyway.
Had you built that into your head that, oh my God, this is going to be a big thing, and then everyone's like, okay, cool, whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. I didn't give any of you guys I didn't really give any of you guys enough credit. I don't know. I think, you're for me, I was just so, honestly, I thought Eric would be fine, and be like, oh dude, but you're so logical, and you had your own life, and you're just, and then Chris he's an easygoing dude. Of course, now we all know that we all have our own problems, but at the time I didn't know that, and so it was scary. It sucked, but yeah, everybody was so great, and you guys were all, it was, and it was very nice how understanding everybody was about, like, oh, okay, well, these last couple of years make a lot more sense now,
Yeah.
And I mean, and then just being there for me, and me being able to say things like, like, hey, I have to get out of this room right this minute, and I can say that to Dave now, or I've been able to say that to Dave for 10 years now, but at the time that really wasn't a thing. I mean, I could say that to you and you would figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, I am literally, the fucking walls are caving in on me right now. I have to get out of here. Now, listener, that doesn't happen to me a lot, but when it does, it's like a Mack truck, and, it's one of those things. One of the things that happens to me on the road is we don't stay on a good schedule. We're doing better, since your thing, but, so I take my meds at sort of different times every day. And like, I feel like my body just gets chemically kind of worked up,
Let's go a little deeper on that. I mean, let's talk about a little bit of the good, bad, and the ugly of tour life. I mean, when we're on tour, a lot of the times we're not in the best situations. We're not taking care of our bodies. We're eating like shit. We're staying up way too late, not getting enough sleep, drinking too much. Then we wake up in a place where sometimes it's not the most comfortable. There's not a place to be. It's a weird shit, man, that adds anxiety, and that makes the day hard. So there's that, but then there's also the flip side of that is, hey, we actually get to have a shitload of fun every day.
Yeah.
You and I are in a lucky position where we kind of have our crew that kind of does everything for us and tries to make the day as easy as it can be, even in those shitty situations. And then for an hour and a half in the night, we get to jump up on stage and have the highest of highs, which kind of keeps us going along. And maybe I just answered the question for you by saying too much, but I mean, how does that affect the mental health side of things? I mean, it's not a healthy lifestyle, but at the same time, there's probably the best part of life, or one of the very best parts of life in it.
I mean, it's it's the greatest thing in the world. I mean, it's so hard to even describe because it's like it doesn't matter whether you're green or blue or from here or Tacoma, Washington or wherever. You've pretended to be a rock star before, and we are rock stars, and it's fucking crazy. It's like it's hard to even think about like having other fucking dreams, like we can have aspirations, but it's like, I mean, our dreams already came true, and so I don't know. That's a driving factor. I mean, our fans are really, really are awesome too. Man, you know what? I think I think social media has really helped me like a lot because I'm, I'm sure you're about to ask about this, but I'm an ambassador for this shit now. And I can put on the internet when I'm having a bad day and it makes me feel better instantly, whether anybody responds to it or not, because at least I've put that out there. And if somebody else reads it, it's going to help them, and that's just been a godsend for me to be able to help other people and to spread the word, because there's definitely a time that I can think of where I wish there was somebody, I wish, Vince Neil would have come into my room and just gone, hey, this is normal, right? Like this just happens to people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with you. I mean, there is something wrong with you, but you can deal with it.
Yeah, there's something wrong with you, but we're all fucked up people. There's something wrong with everybody. You know what? You're exactly right. I was getting there. I feel like we've covered the beginning of it, kind of the reaching out for help part of it. I feel like now we're at the today's life and how things are going. And I think it's a great spot to take a quick break, listen to these words, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Hey, welcome back to the Rockstar Dad Show special edition. It's just me and Jaret today, but Jaret is also our special guest.
Yeah.
We're flipping the script on you today. Talking about mental health. It's Mental Health Awareness Month.
It is. Yeah, big month.
So you're starting to get into, today's day in life, how things are going. I forgot. I got one question for you, leading from reaching out for help to where we are today. And you'd kind of hinted on it earlier, but I know that you had kind of struggled with finding the right therapist, finding the right medications. Through that process, is there something you've learned, something you do different, some tips you could give to somebody, whether it be, hey, maybe stick it out a little bit longer with this or with that, or hey, jump ship sooner, or what are there lessons there, whether it be meds or therapist or what, on when you're trying to figure out that proper combination?
The cocktail, the meds, man, that's the thing is, be as open and honest with your doctor as you think. I mean, like literally every single thing that you feel like this medication might make you feel, do, or say, write it down and be ready to explain that. Don't try to go in there and try to do it from memory, or like, oh, I guess I'm feeling okay, or I don't feel any better. Like, be honest, because you're not the first person that's taking this medication, and so they read, I mean, they know what's working and what's not based upon what you're saying to them. And so that's, and the other thing is just, a lot of people don't want to take meds. I get it. Again, I didn't want to either, but man, you don't have to live that way. You don't have to live, to where you feel like somebody's wadding you up like a piece of paper. You can just a little bit of medication, man, and you can be free of that shit. And it's glorious to be able to breathe. It really is. It's an awesome feeling to be able to look people in the face again when you meet them, like it's just cool. And then as far as the therapist thing, I suggest, honestly, if you're having trouble finding a therapist, try one of the BetterHelp, or one of the other. BetterHelp has actually sponsored this show before. You probably get a discount with code Rockstar, that or whatever. There's several of them, but man, that's just like, you can FaceTime. And Casey and I did all of our therapy on FaceTime for for, all of the pandemic. And then she just stayed on it. Like, she still does all her therapy online. And so, you think, oh, it's not going to be the personal thing, man. It's great. It's just the way of the world now. So those would be my things. I would stay the course, man. And it's worth it. It's worth trying to figure it out. As far as therapy is concerned, couples therapy, all you dudes are scared to do it. Do it. Because when you get in there, you're going to figure out that you're not always wrong. You think you're going to go in there and the therapist and your wife are going to team up on you, and like you're the one that's in all the shit. And all of a sudden you figure out that they don't take sides, and you're like, oh shit, like I'm actually winning arguments. Like, it's fucking cool. It really is. Like, but the same is true the other way. Like, there's stuff that you think you're right about, and then you hear that, you hear it from that perspective, and you go, well, shit, I could have done that better. But
I imagine that's got to help too with the, just the different languages that women and men talk. The men are from Mars, women are from Venus, whatever. Like, there's just things that I say to my wife, and I think I am saying exactly what I mean, and she hears something different.
Mm-hmm. But, it's funny though. Like, it's funny about that is that, like, we've talked about that. Like, we'll do the thing where we haven't done this in a long time, but there'll be somebody in the bus and like they're drunk and arguing, and it's like, y'all are saying exactly the same thing. Stop doing that. Men and women do that all the time. Me and Casey do it all the time. Like, we're, like you said, we're just saying it in a completely different way, and it's hilarious. But again, I'm a proponent of therapy, but I admit, if I ever had to start a new one, I would be reluctant. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
So you've worked out meds, you've got a therapist you're happy with. What's life now? I mean, you've gone from trying to think of it as as painting a picture here for me. Like, you we're down in a dark place. Mm-hmm. You got some help. There's upward momentum to a better place. Is that a plateau? Is there plateau to where, hey, you're still maintaining, there's still battles, there's mountains and valleys? Is it, hey, I'm still working and still getting better? Where are you now?
I mean, I'm on like a fucking high right now. I mean, I'm probably in a better place than I've been, and I mean, honestly, than I can remember. I don't really have any like negativity in my life. I'm not, I don't have things that I'm hiding from people. I don't, I just, I'm just, man, I'm free, but I'll tell you, what really opened it up for me was Peter Thomas, from Slow Roosevelt, had me come and do an interview for his, for a thing he was doing called Louder Than Stigma. He was dealing with just what we're doing right here today, just getting dudes to tell their story. Well, I had never told my story because, it's just in the first few years of me dealing with this. And my thing was like, oh no, I'm the funny guy. I'm going to keep my public life. I want to be Jaret from Bowling for Soup and just be hilarious all the time. And like, and I don't need people coming at me going, oh, the funny guy's sad, which did happen. But not as much as I thought it might. In fact, it was exactly the opposite. The support that I got from just putting that out there the first time really changed my perspective on all that. Like, I had even told our publicist, Jamie, I had said, listen, I did this interview. I want it put in the notes. Like, don't ask me about this shit. Like, this is not a cause for me. Mental health is not a cause. I'm not doing that. I just shared it this one time for a friend. I tried to help. Now they need to ask me about beer and girls and songs and buses and, shit, whatever. And the reaction that I got from that thing started to build a little bit of momentum, And then I had one guy just specifically ask, hey man, can I ask you a couple of things about mental health? And all of a sudden I was like, fuck it, take that out of there. I'll talk about it anytime you want. And then since then, I met the people from Punk Rock Saves Lives. Peter actually went on to be super instrumental in Foundation 45, which is the local charity that I work with here. And, I'm able to be knee deep in it now, and to be a voice for people, and to advocate for those people that won't advocate for themselves with themselves by saying like, look, dude, you're great. The world's a better place with you in it. And I'll be releasing a song on the 21st, which I believe is tomorrow, called There Is You. And it is a song about mental health and about, the implications of all that. And it's a triumphant and true song. And I'm super proud of it. But yeah, it's going to be out there for this Mental Health Awareness Month. And, where Punk Rock Saves Lives will be out on tour with us all year. And, that's where I'm at, man. I got great friends, and now I can share with you guys, like, when shit's going wrong. And now you feel comfortable talking to me about it. When you have your anxiety shit, you'll just, or whomever, sidebar, like, hey, guys from other bands come up and talk to me about it, and it's like, I don't claim to be an expert, but I certainly have experience in it. And if I at least can listen, which, sort of leads me to the other thing that I really, again, when I did my analogy of like trying to explain what it all feels like earlier in the show, just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that you don't still have a bit of a responsibility. You can be a good listener and a good friend. You can check in on people, and you can do all of those things. And, like I said, I very much think that we shouldn't really second guess anybody that feels like that they're having these kind of things. It's because it's fucked up, and it can lead to some really, really dark places. And, and like we all know this, but when somebody goes down the darkest of dark paths or whatever, and all of a sudden they eliminate themselves from the planet, the hurt, that ripple effect, so all of a sudden you don't think depression affects you. Well, it just fucking did, Yeah. It did.
When earlier on, when you said, hey, don't ask these questions, yada, yada, was that a protecting yourself? Was that a, hey, I'm Jaret from BFS. We're the fun band. I don't want to focus on that. And then you explained coming out of that, but now do you feel that you have a responsibility or a burden, or is it even just part of your therapy even to be out there and talking about it and spreading the word?
That's what it is, man. It's part of my therapy. I don't feel responsible. I have said that in the past, but I don't feel like that. I don't think that was a good way for me to describe it. It's very therapeutic. The moments that we have on stage where you guys are gracious enough to let me, have a couple of minutes to just talk to the audience or whatever, like the amount of lives that we touch with just that, just the amount of messages that we get just going, okay, man, I made a doctor's appointment, or holy crap, I was in tears, and I haven't talked to my best friend in 3 years, and whatever it is. So it's very therapeutic though for me to be able to talk about my own shit. But like I said, when I walked out of that first interview with Peter, I don't guess I said this, but it's the first time I'd ever shared my story. And I just walked out of that room. It was in Deep Ellum, like a place that we had been 1,000 times. We did it at the Liquid Lounge. And I just walked out of the Liquid Lounge taller than I've ever been, and just, man, my lungs were empty. And I was just like, holy shit, this shitty air in Deep Ellum, Dallas smells amazing. And, that was ammo for me to be able to go, you know what? I think I will share my story. I certainly don't ever, but going back to Bowling for Soup. Yeah. I never wanted it to, and I don't want it to ever overshadow what it is we do. But at the same time, now we've sort of, we have a song called Hello Anxiety, and we deal with it. And now we've all got our other shit too. So it's just sort of, I think it's a minute part of what we do now, and I think that we always have room to grow, and I think we're in a good place right now, all of us in our lives, to be able to tell people like, hey, you know what, man, life can get hard sometimes, but you can come out of it on the other side and be happier than you've ever been. And, you know, look at us go.
Something that's been special about your songs, and I think this has been throughout your career of writing that I've known you for, and that's a long ass time.
Yeah.
Is that you are able to write songs that people can always say, I can relate to that. That was my story, that whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's just being genuine. And now you've got another layer, another addition of genuineness to add.
Yeah.
We're running out of time. I got one, maybe two last quick questions because we got to wrap the show up.
Yeah.
But we hinted earlier about, you know, the how life on the road is sometimes hard, and it may not be the best for mental health, you know, the lifestyle that we live. That being said, we also have some of the highest highs while we're out there.
Yeah.
Is it easier mental health wise, taking care of yourself? Is it easier to be on tour or at home with your normal everyday comforts?
My quick answer is it's easier to take care of myself mental health wise on the road because it's Groundhog's Day. You know, it's like I have to drink enough water, get enough sleep, you know, get to bed at a reasonable hour, eat something that of substance each day. Like I just don't, there's just not a lot of stuff, you know, I deal with, you know, it's at home, it's not really even home life. It's not my wife and kids and my pets and stuff. It's just, it's the other barrage of just insanity, you know, that, I mean, shit, before I talk to you, like there's a guy fixing the oven and then a text comes in and goes, we missed an invoice last summer and this German company is fucking pissed and it needs to be paid today. And you know, it's just that kind of shit. Right. So, you know, the beauty of being at home is I have the comfort of my own bed and, you know, obviously my lovely wife and kids and my dogs and shit. But, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit easier for me to maintain probably on the road.
Easier to be selfish, even though you don't have the comfort of home.
It's so much easier to be I mean, and I'm, you know, I'm really selfish and I really didn't mean to be, but it's like, the example that I give is like one time we ordered a bunch of cheeseburgers from McDonald's for me and my friends over here in my neighborhood, and they took a bite and they're like, well, there's no pickles on these. And I go, oh yeah, I just got them with no onions or pickles. That's how we do that in Bowling for Soup and nobody seems to care. And Casey goes, no, it's not that they don't care. You just don't like pickles.
You know, the van life, the bus life is just a different dynamic. Saying it's easier to be selfish is the wrong word because you're not a selfish person, but it's easier to go, I need this, where at home, being a father, being a husband, a lot of that job is taking care of other people. So there's days where we need to do things for ourselves, but we're gonna usually put other people's needs ahead.
100%. Yeah, I definitely agree. And you know what? I mean, I'm sort of like that on the road too. I mean, I definitely try and put everybody's needs at least up there with mine. There's very few things where I would say that I'm selfish. I just don't want onions on my bean burritos, Gary.
That's fine. I don't want them on there either. Hey, you know what? We're going to have to wrap things up. I appreciate you being so open.
Dude, this has been great. Thank you so very much for putting this together, man. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to share, but I appreciate the opportunity to share it with you, man.
Yeah. You know, it's not every day that you let me take the driver's seat.
Yeah.
And somehow you still managed to talk more than me this episode.
Yeah, I'm looking at the wavelengths and you're so fucking right. Hey, to be fair, you were asking me questions.
I know. I'm just making a joke, man. I can't do a whole episode without getting a joke in. Hey, before we go, anything we haven't touched base on, anything you want to tell people, send them to somewhere if they're looking for help, anything I just am an idiot and forgot to ask about?
No, everybody go to punkrocksaveslives.org. Even if you don't need help, there's ways you can help. You can get into shows for free, take pictures with the bands, all that stuff just for volunteering to help save lives, man. It's fucking awesome. If you're local in the Texas area and you'd like to to help out with Foundation 45. There's tons and tons of programs, and obviously financially always in need. And y'all, Bowling for Soup's on the road, and my new song, it's funny. It's not really country. It's not really Bowling for Soup, but I'm doing it under the Jaret Reddick thing just because I don't want to complicate things anymore. But it's called There Is You, and Linus and his bandmate Tay did the video for me when I was up in Joshua Tree with him, and I'm just real proud of it, man. And I'm sure proud of this episode, man. I think we're going to do a lot of good with this, man. So this was a great idea. Thank you.
Awesome. Everybody, thanks for listening. This has been a very fun episode for me, and I appreciate you opening up for everybody. Next week, we're going to be back with normal Rockstar Dad Show episodes. We'll have great special guests coming up, and that's it for us today.
Y'all be good.
This is a song for my friends Jaret and Gary. They started a podcast and said a theme was necessary. They're just a couple of guys in a band that you know, some rockstar dads who started a show. Until the next episode.